Ernesto Aguirre didn't just launch a brand, he lit a fuse under centuries of heritage. Cholo-its-quintle isn't about hype or hustle. It's about fire, bloodlines, and the spirits that walk beside us. The Cholo guards the gate, the Agave feeds the flame, and every bottle tells a story older than steel. We dive deep into ancestral grit, sacred rituals, and the war to keep tequila's soul intact in a world that's trying to water it down. This is Legacy with Teeth, Identity in a Bottle, and the founder who's not asking for space, he's carving it in stone. On this episode of Tactical Tequila Podcast with your host, Matt Wilson. If you enjoy the show, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it to your social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. We talk about origin myths, the spiritual weight of tradition, and why Ernesto sees tequila not just as a drink, but a vessel for a memory, identity, and ancestral power. From the whispers in the fields to the fire distillation, this episode walks the line between heritage and destiny. Forget what you think you know about tequila. This is soul in a bottle. Ernesto Aguirre of Xoloitzcuintle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. What an intro. That was crazy. Thanks for having me. That was awesome. Really nice to be here. I always get a little nervous before these things. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready to talk about it. Let's dig in and enjoy some good tequila and some good stories.
Well, I'm happy to have you on the show, and I was excited when you said yes because I was like, I really want to try the high proof on camera with you. We first met back last year at our G4 launch here in Las Vegas at the
Yeah.
yeah at the after party, and you were the last person that I talked to before I walked out the door, and that's how I always remembered you. Was you gave me your card and you were like, "Here, try this," and I thought it was a great tequila when I first tried it, but now that I've had the high proof, it's so light for a high proof. You don't get the overwhelming pepper that you do get on a lot of high proofs. You don't get the alcohol, you get that agave forwardness. Like, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, the high proof in itself, the Valles is I think it's a very different. I always tell people it's like a different fingerprint than than my natural, like my original line. Um, we use Valley agaves, um, you know, fermentation with fibers. But I think what brings on that subtleness and really mutes that like really alcohol forward or the pepper is that I wasn't ready to release it when we first made it 2 years ago. So it's been sitting in stainless steel tanks or stainless steel tank. It's just one tank uh, for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's had a lot of natural aeration, and every once in a while we would open it up and take a little sample and try it and see where it's at and stuff like that. And yeah, so it's just been sitting there doing its thing for 2 years. It's had a chance to like really settle down, and that just makes for a really nice and complex tequila without any of the harshness really. So it's very enjoyable.
And so talking about the high proof here and talking about the brand, what does the word Xoloitzcuintle mean to you beyond the dog and the deeper meaning of the name?
Uh, so I mean, at the surface level, right? I know you said deeper, but we'll start for the surface level. Uh, so it was really when I was thinking about, what do you call a tequila? What do you if you were to start a brand, what do you call it, right? And you go through all these names, and half of them are taken, half of them, the other half are like really bad names. You're like, nobody's good, and everybody kind of is like, all right. So then you go into like indigenous history and Mexican history, right? And that's where you find most of like the names that are meaningful to people. The Xolo, at one point almost went extinct, as it's the national dog of Mexico. It was brought back from extinction, basically in the 50s, through a breeding program. But they've always been guardians, in life and guides in the afterlife. So I always kind of say, they're spirit guides, and they've guided me to the spirit that is tequila. That's kind of like what I like to say. And the Xolos are, I think they're beautiful, and they're weird looking, and they're something that's to be respected. A lot of people don't even or have never even heard of the dog, and I feel like it's part of my duty to like educate people. Like, this is the Mexican dog, like this is where you get like those images of the Native Americans with their dog. This is that dog. So it's a lot of like pride in like my ancestry, of being, like indigenous or mestizo, or whatever word you want to use.
Well, and you talk about the dog and the meaning behind it, and if you look on the bottle, and you have it etched into the bottle.
And to
This is a
the
new design. This is a newer design from the original, correct?
Yeah, so the etching is just gonna be on the still strength. The other ones are still gonna be, which is the black, the
Okay.
black dog. But the etching one, or the high proof, will be etched. But for that one, I changed it from a Xolo to an alebrije. An alebrije is another type of mythical creature that's in Mexico, most famously done in Oaxaca. uh, and they're also a former spirit guide. They came to an artist, when he was having like nightmares, when he was super sick, and he created these whole like story of like how they guide you and take care of you, and they're all around you and stuff like that. It's really really cool story. But yeah, so so my still strength is gonna be an alebrije, which is like a marriage of two creatures, and my extrañejo is also an alebrije. I don't have any more of that because I'm sold out. But yeah, but my XA is also an alebrije, so it's like a Xolo with wings.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, and then so the design of this bottle with the etching, and then also on the back you have the imprint. Can you talk a little bit about what's on the imprint of the
Yeah,
bottle?
yeah. So that's it says Xolo at the bottom, and it's a dog. And the ears are made to look like pencas with the agave behind it. That was gonna be my original logo. That my friend Saskia drew up for me. A friend from basically, I met her in fifth grade, so elementary school. When I was like, "Hey Saskia, I'm gonna, create a tequila brand. It's called Xolo. I kind of want to do this where like the ears into the ear." She's like, "I got you." She's like an artist, so I drew like sketch, and she like actually did it. It was beautiful, and then, and I didn't end up using it as my logo, but I want to kind of like, you know pay respects and like thank her for it, and give her like some credit. So I was like, it would be cool to have it just in the back of the bottle, just as a like a faint, something for people to like look at, or ask about, and create more of a story and stuff like that. So that's the goal. Yeah. Another
And
one, and yeah, go ahead.
and so like I also see what they're Roman numerals.
On the bottom, oh no, so that's Xolo, XOLO. But they're kind of it's kind of faint. So the on the So yeah, it's supposed to be XO and then LO. There's a bottom and a top to some of those if you feel it. Really cool. There is Roman numerals on the bottle, just not where you're
Okay.
looking. If you look at the bottom of the bottle, that's yeah, IV. So in my family, we're rural original with names, and I'm
Okay.
Ernesto the Fourth.
Nice.
So so it's my little signature on the bottom of all those bottles, kind of thing. So that's the
That's
Roman numeral.
outstanding. I never knew that, so that's a little fun fact that
Yeah, it's a little
I
Easter egg
was
I tell people during
yeah.
tastings. I always say at the end of it, like, all right, guys, thanks for sitting here. Uh, if and when this tequila makes it huge, and you're gonna be able to tell people that you met the owner, nobody's gonna believe you, but you're gonna be able to tell them, let them know that there's an IV at the bottom of the bottle, and only people that are in tastings know about this, and it's that kind of thing. So it's
So what made you put everything into making a tequila brand?
it was so my mom's side of the family's from Arandas. There's a lot of history there. My great grandfather was the second mayor of Arandas, things like
Oh
that.
wow.
Yeah, so there's history there. It's my his name was Lopez Fonseca. So they had the first car in Arandas. Um, which is funny. And then the Vivancos, the 1414, they had the
Mm-hmm.
first gas station in Narandas.
Oh
So I'm
wow.
I'm sure there was a I'm sure there was a meeting there somewhere. Like I have the first car, you have the first gas station. We should, that kind of thing. So yeah, so that history goes really far back in Arandas, and I always heard my grandfather say, Arandas is the capital of the world, where liquid is gold and all that stuff. I was 7, I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, grandpa, whatever you, whatever you say, man. And then, I would go visit in summers and we would go see uncles and stuff there. And I found out that there's, a lot of like family history in Agaves, in Arandas, a lot of land in Arandas. And then I have uncles that have like their own tequila brands. So that's kind of like, oh man, I want to be involved. I love this part of the family. This is like history. It's stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I've been learning even from after I launched, because I'm going down there more frequently now. So I'm learning way more about my family, and how far it really goes. Um, but yeah, it was just like a passion. Like I've always wanted to do it. I just didn't even know how to start. Like you're like it's one of those like fantasy dreams where you're like, oh, it would be so cool. I'd be like
Mm-hmm.
rich, and everybody would love it. And in your mind, it's like something that's that's quick, and it's gonna be like the next best thing. And I'm gonna be like Patron, and have my own haciendas, and um, but it was always kind of in the back of my mind. And then like nothing ever came of it. I was in education. I worked with kids for 10 years. Um, and when COVID happened, they shut down my school. And I had a lot of time on my hands. I was like, oh man, like what do I do? Like I think right now would be the right now is the time. Like if I'm gonna do something, I need to do it now. And like
Mm-hmm.
dive in, jump in. I mean, I'm not married, no kids. So I started developing. I found the name. Started doing like weird bottle designs. My weird sketches. Uh, and then I was like, I'm gonna quit my job. I threw my life savings into this. And I did my first batch from my first lot, and that's basically how I started. Like I was like, I had $45,000 saved up, and I was like, I'm gonna do it, dive in, and see what happens, kind of thing.
That's amazing. And so talking about your first batch, walk us through your first batch. Where were you? What did it smell like? How did you feel when you made your first batch?
I'm gonna pour myself a little bit of tequila. Are you drinking already? I'm sorry.
I am actually.
Okay. Let me join you. Yeah. So my first batch. Um, my first batch was pretty exciting. I had all my family was there. My dad, my mom, my sister. Um, and it was after like, I mean, even before it, like when it became real, when I signed the papers for the distillery, like, all right, this distillery is gonna make my tequila. It's kind of a surreal moment, when I saw the bottle. When I saw the bottle, they 3D printed it for me. Like, this is what it's gonna look like. Touch it, feel it. Even that, I was like, oh my God, like it's just like. I don't say it's like your baby because I don't have kids, so I don't know what that's like. But but I'm gonna assume like it's just like it's all your hard work is becoming something physical, something like tangible, and it was like super exciting. Um, but like every step of the process was like that. I think, it's so I got my 3D printed, bottle, and I was like, oh, it's amazing. People are gonna love the 1 liter, like in earlier. Turns out that wasn't true. Uh, but it was, and then like I saw the box. I'm like, oh my God, the box is amazing, and then like every step was like so cool. Um, Down to like doing the blends for the reposado and doing the añejo, like, okay, what's your barrel gonna be like, that kind of stuff. Um, Even going to the ABV percentage, like, because I wanted high proofs from the start. Like, high proof is all I want. That's what's interesting to me. Um, so even picking the right ABV was, and once we found it, was like you go, yeah, I got to my hotel that night and I was like, oh man, like I'm stoked, like 46% ABV, people are gonna love it, at that time it's like right before the high proof really took off, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, nobody's done doing this. I'm gonna be one of the first. So it was super exciting. But my first batch, my first lot bottling, I mean, I didn't have a lot of money left after everything was said and done. I spent 45K and everything up to, all right. And then I was like, all right, how much money do I have left? And that's what's gonna go into the bottling. Like that's my liquid. My first lots were, 100 bottles here, 100 bottles there, and that's where. But it was super exciting. It was like a little nerve-wracking. It was one of those moments where if these 100 bottles don't sell, like that's it. Like that was, it was a year and 3 months, a year and 4 months of like following your dream, and I hope it works kind of thing. So, um, and being so small and with no backing, no funding, no investors, um, it really is like a just like a jump in the dark. Um,
I can
but
imagine.
it's nerve-wracking. I'm pretty sure I cried at one point. Um, but I was drinking the whole time, like drinking, like, making sure they're bottling what I want, what I asked for, and I was there trying it, and every step was just like so much fun. And I was videotaping with my phone, like those dads, proud of their kids, like, yeah, like just following it. Um, and then I was like, all right, can you guys, I was like, can you guys make sure you mark, the box for that has bottle 1 through 6 because I want to keep bottle number 4. And they're like, yeah, sure. So I was like super excited, and then seeing it and it was one palette, all like 4 styles, one palette, just mix and match, and I was like, oh, hey, like fingers crossed, I'll see you guys. I was like in my mind, I was like, I'll see you guys next week because it's gonna sell out so fast.
How,
You
how,
know,
how did it do
so
um coming out the gate?
it was good. I think it took me, I'd say like 4 months to like, okay, I need another lot, like next batch. So it took me quite a while to get the ball rolling because it's at that time it was just like it was just me, in California, uh knocking on doors, kind of like, hey, hey, have you heard, and I was like, have you heard of this great tequila called Xolo? Like pretending like it's been, pretending like it's, been out forever, and, it has, everybody's talking about it. You should try it, and nobody was talking about it. It had been, in my warehouse for a day. Um, and it's just, and that's just how it started, and I'm still grateful for the first couple stores that, decided to take me in. Um, and then a couple stores that, yeah, come in but do a tasting. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, and that's just, how I started like developing and selling and stuff like that. And now I'm in, I think, 9 states, 10 states, and it's grown pretty substantially in my eyes.
I can imagine, especially going from roughly 100 bottles to now you're in 9 states. I mean, that shows a testament to your work ethic, putting everything forward and doing all the hard leg work and getting into those states.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of hard work. Like I said, it's in your mind, or maybe, just me being uh kind of hopeful. Overnight success. It's gonna be the best tequila ever, and and it wasn't like that. And it's every day. It's wake up and keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. But
I
that's just
I know the feeling. And so during your whole process, what's one thing that you will never compromise with the tequila?
so. I think like the obviously quality, right? Quality is super important. Um, but I think what's important to me is the ABV. I people have asked me to make something lower, 42 or 43, and I'm just I think the 46 or being high proof throughout the line is a fingerprint of mine. It's something that's like, all right, Xolo, we already know it's high proof. Like I want people to say like, oh, Xolo, oh, it's everything's high proof. Like, what are they gonna come out with next? Have something high proof. Like that's what I want. So not only its quality is never gonna change, nothing lower than 46% ABV. Um, and I mean, just try to stay as traditional as possible. Everything I do is made in Mexico. Which however small I am, I'm helping out somebody, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
the person that's making my corks or the person that's etching my bottle or, the people that make my label, like my glass, everything's done in Mexico. It is a little more expensive than if I were to get it, from China or from somewhere else. But for me, that's important because those are my people. It would be
Right.
silly to make something a Mexican product and not have it everything be, Mexican. That just doesn't make sense. So that I think those are the three things I think: quality, ABV, and
Mhm.
just how Mexican the brand is.
And I think that if you were to, you know, contract it out to, a different country or something, along those lines, I think that you would probably be looked at a whole lot differently. Um, because there are brands out there that do that, and they're definitely not looked at the same as something that's made has everything made in Mexico.
Right. Yeah, I think that's super important, because it's a lot of bigger brands, they want to save. And
Hmm.
it's not even anything drastic. It's they want to save 3 pennies, you know. But I
Yeah.
guess when you're talking giant volumes, 3 pennies goes a long way. But it just doesn't make sense to me to have such a Mexican product and not have it be Mexican.
And so with talking about choosing everything within Mexico, how do you choose your agaves?
So my agaves are all well, not anymore, but my agaves were initially all Highland.
Okay.
Claudio, he's one of my master distillers, is Claudio and Hector Davalos. Claudio's the agave man, like I think every tequila company has like their agave man, that they always talk about. Claudio's that to me. He's the one that's out in the fields. He's the one that's checking the bricks. He's the one that calls me like, hey, they're offering this agave. It's in this area. It's great. It's 6 years old, 7 years old. Um, it's this much, and I half the time I was like, they're talking, hectares and hectares and hectares, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll take 50 plants, and especially when it was super expensive. But yeah, he's my guy, and it's so I have full trust in him. And it's just my rule is, high bricks, and Highland. Um, but and that's where Valles comes from. So the Valles is my first. It's the agaves come from El Arenal. Um, so those agaves were offered to us. He calls me like, "Hey Ernesto, duh, duh, duh." So they have these agaves. They're fantastic, phenomenal. We could make some really good tequila with it. And I'm like, okay, well, like sounds good. He's like, "Oh, but," and I'm like, but what? He's like, but they're, from El Arenal. I'm like, oh, they're valid. Like, I don't want them. I'm adamant. Like, I don't want it. I, it's gonna mess with my fingerprint. Like
Hmm.
fingerprint. I feel like it's, especially when you're additive free. Um, I think fingerprint's super important because every lot is gonna change, but you still need some of that same kind of nuance, like say like, oh, that's it's different, but it's the same. Like it's different, but it's the same. Um,
Hmm.
because each lot does change so much. But back to the valley, he's like, yeah, but they're really good. What if we do something special? We'll do something different, something special. And I was like, all right, like, what do you have in mind? Like, oh, well, let's do like a 50 ABV or a still strength. I'm like, all right, let's give it a go. I don't have that, so let's try it. So that's why, for the still strength, the one you have there, it's specified bias. Like that's very different, you know. So
And so this one is actually fermented with fibers,
that
correct?
is fermented with the only one that's fermented with fibers. None of
Okay.
my other ones are fermented with fibers. Yeah, so we wanted to get a little experimental. I was like, well, if it's going to be different, might as well, try some different things on it, kind of thing. So that's where that came from.
And I tend to like, well, I'm through and through a high proof tequila drinker. Like I love high proofs. Um and even on one of the first episodes of Tactical Tequila, I think it was the Blanco on, we had sipped it during the show. And you know going into the more of the process, from oven to barrel, what is your favorite part of the process that gets you like totally excited?
I think so. Barreling is super, super interesting to me. But I think the most exciting or the most impactful it has to be fermentation, right? Like that's the one where you could really change something. Um, so I mean, and that's when I talk to Hector and Claudio all the time, like, all right, so what's happening now? And what are you doing? Because that gets real scientific, and they're throwing out terms, and I'm like, okay, like trying to take notes, trying to learn as much as I can. Um, but it's that's where, like, things can go great or things can go terribly wrong, and it's any little thing could change, and you have a different product. Um, but that's probably the most impactful. Um, for us, for Hector and Claudio, they do agave yeast
Okay.
that they pull from the agave fields during harvest.
Okay.
So it's the same yeast that's being fermented, that it's coming from those plants, which I think is really interesting and really cool because it's
That
not
is
con
interesting.
yeah, because it's not continuous. We don't make enough. We don't make a lot. The distillery is not continuously making and fermenting tequila. So every time it's a different thing. And then there's the distillery is surrounded by like citrus trees and peaches and strawberries and all kinds of fruits. And I think that imparts a lot of flavor. And it's I've yet to see a distillery with so many fruit trees around it.
Hmm.
And I do tours, and and they'll have like, oh, this is like an orange tree, but they don't have, these are groves. Like it's groves and groves of peaches and oranges and the different
Okay.
kinds of fruits on there. It's super. So that all has to do, and must do something to the tequila to make the profile the way that it is.
And so is it open air fermented as well?
Yeah, it is open air
Okay.
fermented. Yeah,
And you use a autoclave in order to cook the agave, correct?
autoclave. Yeah,
Okay.
so my first couple lots were 50/50 autoclave and stone brick oven. And then I decided to switch 100% to low pressure autoclave. Um, and I'm working on a 100%, like a special edition, if you will, like our separate stone brick oven.
And
That
what made you move 100% in the direction of autoclave.
So we it was just honestly just like we were doing tests and tasting and it was like also pricing at the time like agave was super expensive. Um, but it was very I could barely tell the difference between like stone brick oven and autoclave and I could really try it and I was like I kept trying and I would do blinds and I was like all right and I was really hard for me to find it. Like find yeah, I know there's people that could do it, and I know there's people in the community that have the craziest palates, and they could, they'll smell it in autoclave. I'm like, dude, that is wild. Like, how do you
Right.
know? But at the same time, it is like a 50-50. Like you're kind of, you know, not that they're saying, not that they're doing that. No, I'm not, pointing any fingers, but it is. Um, so I went that way because it was just kind of it made a little more sense to me at the time. And it's easier for me to do a special edition stone brick oven than to do a special edition autoclave, which I don't think people would be very, very excited for. You know,
Well, I can see that, and I would agree that they would be less excited about that. But I think either way, doing a special edition, whether stone brick oven or autoclave, I think either way, if you do a special edition, I think people will get excited about it, whether or not it's Tahona crushed or roller mill, and however you figure out how you're going to do the special edition. I think that is what will get people excited.
mm, yeah, I agree.
And I think that you kind of hit on this earlier, but what would you say the biggest risk is that you took with building the brand?
So I think I'm still I think I'm still in the risk of there's still I'm still in the I took the dive and I'm still underwater. If you say, if you're willing to, I'm still like kind of just trying to navigate myself. Um, yeah, I think the leap of faith, quitting my job, doing something, doing something with just passion. I mean, I didn't do market studies. I didn't do questionnaires. I didn't ask people for advice. I didn't, it's literally just, I was like, I'm passionate about this and this is what I want to come out with. And if I like it, other people have to like it. That was my mentality. That is still my mentality. I think, there's very few, um, I think the only one that I've had people like try before it was released and say like, "Hey, what do you think?" Was the Hoven. But it's just I think the biggest risk is doing something out of passion, and love, and I hope that other people see it. Because if people don't see it, then I lose everything, and I go, not that I would be on the streets or anything, but I would just go back to go back to working at a school, doing something like that. But it's just I think the biggest risk is that is doing something with passion and for the love of it, as opposed to like doing market studies and dollar bills and figuring all that stuff out.
All of that stuff will come at some point in time during the whole process of launching the brand and moving forward in sales and stuff. So I think that, like you said, if you have enough passion and you have enough will and discipline in order to make sure that you see it through, I think even if it's a small success, it's still a success, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think that's what the big difference between like all the smaller additive free brands that are coming out now. I mean, we're all friends. You were at the Chicago,
Yeah.
and the industry night. It's all the brand owners. Hey, Ernesto, how you doing? Hey, how are you? How are things? How, do you need any help? It's the community is super, super tight. And all the small brands kind of know each other and they help each other, which is,
Mhm.
something super unique about the industry. But I think it is the people behind the brands, right? Like
Yeah.
it's you could do whatever marketing, you could do whatever you want kind of thing. But I think the faces and the people and the work behind something is what really makes it of value.
Yeah, and with adding value, how do you keep the authenticity of the brand, the tequila while you're scaling up?
Well, I think we go back. I mean, so scaling for me is just basically reinvestment at the moment, right? I haven't reached a point where I've had to like, change something as of yet, like where it's like, oh, okay, well, my glass maker can't make, the glass this fast or, anything like that. I'm nowhere near. I'm still ordering. So I'll put it this way: I'm still ordering minimums. What's your minimum order on the label? What's your minimum order on the the corks? What's your order minimum on the glass? Like that's so as I'm not at the point where it's anything is gonna change from growth at the moment. Um, but I think that the only thing that scaling is doing currently would be with my time and then the states that I'm in, right? Because I wanna go out there and educate everybody in Florida. I want to educate everybody in Georgia. I want to educate everybody in Texas. So like I want to go to those states and spend time there and educate the sales team. Go to stores and talk about it. Do tastings myself in those states. So I think scaling as far as that is like my time is like kind of like just kind of I'm stretching myself out as much as I can, or as much as financially possible, right? To where like okay, I was talking to my girlfriend this morning. Like, I think I'm done, with states for like I don't want any more any I don't want any new states. Like I can't like I want to be able to go and share my passion. And if I were in all 50 states, there's no way I could do that. Or if I was in 15 states, there's no way I could do that. Like so that's I guess as far as like scaling, I think that's where I'm at right now as where I'm like reaching the limit of like my time and my travel. But I guess that comes with a little more sales and financial ability than I could do that a little bit more.
How do you, um, w- without going into more states and the states that you do have, how do you protect yourself mentally and not experience the burnout?
I think I've yet to experience that. I think because I'm so passionate. That sounds weird. That sounds like feels like I'm tapping myself on the shoulder on that. I I feel like because I when I present myself and I present my brand and I talk about it and it's I talk about it with excitement. And then I see other people return the excitement or be equally as passionate about something that's not theirs,
Hmm.
right? Like, oh, and then I see and I go on sales with them and then they present it with just as much passion as I would. That brings life to me. So there is that's the return. Like I give, and then if I do it right, I see other people be passionate about something that's mine, and that gives me life. Like there's no burnout when that happens, right? So I just feed off of that. That gets me excited, and it's something that I love. Like they're like, yeah, like this is awesome. I come back, fly back, and on my flight back, I'm like, all right, I know there's a big order gonna come in, and they're like yeah, yeah, it's we sold out. It was amazing, and I'm kind of on a high for like the next 2 weeks. I'm like, that was a great. I can't wait to go back. They're gonna kill it. Super proud of that team. So it's that kind of and that's what feeds me to keep doing it and keep moving.
That's awesome. And in my job, so and I I'm going to say that it's probably the same with you, is that since you're so passionate about it, like for me, my job, like I'm passionate about what I do. And I've been doing executive protection for 19 years. And it's never, even on my longest days, it's never a day of work. Like I
Huh.
never feel the burnout because I feel that my job is bigger than me. It's not about me. It's about my clients. And I just feel like I never get the burnout, no matter how much I travel. And I travel quite a bit, but I never feel that burnout that a lot of people feel. And I think from talking with you, I think you're probably in that same boat.
Yeah, it's a job with a duty, that just brings, some kind of meaning to your life, and it just, yeah, you could never get tired of that. When I worked in education, I worked with, kids with special needs, and that also every day was really tough. Different things would be thrown at me, and but you would get it with like one, breakthrough a day where like a kid shook your hand that doesn't like touching people. You're like, yeah, yeah, like that was dope. Can't wait to come back tomorrow.
Honestly, that's what makes it worthwhile. Even if it's just the smallest thing is on my end is a client saying thank you for something, like the person, whatever service you're providing or whatever product you're providing, they're appreciative of what you're doing.
Hmm.
And,
Right.
and to me that makes it worthwhile. And kind of going into my next question is, during your whole process and making tequila, what is one thing that you think that outsiders don't understand about tequila making until they're in it?
Man, I love your questions. When you send me your questions, I was like, these are in depth. I'm like, this is, oh, I love it. This is legit. I think, well, just speaking personally, I think it's all the hands that it takes to make a bottle. Everybody always talks about like, oh, the jimadores and all the hard work they do, and it's crazy. I mean, I'm sure you've done it. You go visit a distillery and they have you like chop, one penca, and your
Uh-huh.
hands are already blistered. You're like, I did one I did one penca. These guys are doing like half a field by themselves. So it is, I mean, yeah, that's, hands, but it's
Hmm.
it's those hands, the farmers, even before the harvest, taking care of something for 7 years without anything given back to you. It's just fingers crossed, that this last 7 years, um, all the women in the bottling, the label people, I go pick up my corks myself. I go pick up the my cellosil, the I don't know what they're called in English, the little wraps. What is that? The I go pick that up. Yeah, I go pick that up at the factory in Jalisco, right? And I see the factory, and it's all these people working there, and I'm like, man, it's a lot of lives that a single bottle of tequila kind of goes through and affects, which is kind of cool. And at the same time, it's something that even now, like I catch myself, drinking a bottle or something that's not mine. Take a pic, and I'll pour it, and I'll sit with the bottle for a little bit, and I'm like, man, like I wonder who makes this cork, or I wonder who makes this label, and like how many hands, is it, you think one brand, one company does this, or two companies? So it's like I go through this whole extensive, thought process of like how many hands have touched a single bottle of tequila.
And talking about that process, what part of the tequila process would you think is the most spiritual?
Um, I think I think drinking it. I think
Elaborate. I got to hear this.
so I think it's it being a spirit in itself, and you getting to drink it and taste it and enjoy it and what it does to your body, you know, and your mind. Um, I think I think there's a sense of you like almost like a release, like you're intaking something, and your brain is like releasing like I don't want to sound like an alcoholic or anything. It releases like these endorphins or like these happy thoughts, you know, or even sad thoughts. It's something that affects your brain,
Hmm.
or your memories, or even like sometimes I'll smell tequila or smell a mezcal, and I'm like, oh man, this smells like, you know, something that I from my childhood or something, like a memory will come up, you know, like randomly, like, or you know, it's so I think drinking it in itself has so many effects on you, whether it's like a memory that you smell or a different taste that comes up with you, you know, because I'm sure your palate might be better than my palate, but I've had people, you know, they'll try it and oh, this reminds me of that one time I had, you know, I was having bacon at the beach, you know, and you know, with that sea breeze was coming in, and I'm like, just I'm all ear. I'm like listening to the guy, like, yeah, that's a, you know, it's like, so I think enjoying the tequila or drinking the tequila and taking it, and then having your memories and your thoughts and all that come out and express, you know, being able to express that is something spiritual, something right.
Well, and I think that there are probably a lot of people out there would be like, oh, if I smell tequila, it's going to remind me of this bad time,
Like
this
college
one time
days
in
or whatever.
college,
Yeah,
or this one time where I had too many shots. And, fortunately, it was a shitty tequila that they had
right.
and probably chock full of additives. And they had just way too much and overindulged in it. But as you become a connoisseur, an aficionado, and just a person who generally appreciates the product that they're drinking it neat or in a cocktail, having a good, I feel, additive free tequila in whatever glass, a cocktail or, neat, on the rocks, if that's how you want to, dilute your tequila down. I think once you have a better tequila and you have a better understanding that it's not about just taking shots and getting inebriated and wasted and things like
Yeah,
that, and you enjoy the spirit, I think it's, in a sense, life altering. Once you start to refine your palate enough that you're enjoying the spirit as opposed to, oh, we're taking shots. Like,
right. I
yeah,
think that's one of my biggest like almost like pleasures when I'm doing, because I do a lot of events and I do a lot of tastings, and I think I get that a lot, like, you know, like oh, I don't drink tequila. I'm like, okay. I'm like, why? Like, I drank too much back in my day, you know, like I used to drink all this tequila. Try this one, you know, give it a taste, you know, a little bit, and then that you could already see it that they're gonna be like, you know, like I'm like, wait, like sip on it. Like, oh, I can't. Like, it's gonna make me throw up. And, you know, like I'm like it, sip on it. If you're gonna throw up, I'll put my hands out for you. Like what? Like that's how much trust I have. And you know, like, and they'll do it. They'll take a little sip, and then that face that goes, oh, you know,
this
like
is
I'm like,
nothing like what I've had before.
exactly. And I'm like, yeah. So it's not that you don't like tequila. It's that you don't like bad tequila, and nobody
Right.
likes bad tequila. Right? Like, yeah, like I would also throw up if I drink like really, really bad stuff. You know, it's just the way it works. And then
So,
they're like, oh, let me try more. Let me try the next one, or let me try that one. And then you can see their brain is like,
yeah.
oh, it's a whole new world, right? It's a whole new experience of what tequila is or should be.
Well, and that's kind of how I was. I mean, once I started diving down the rabbit hole of additive free tequila, I was blown away by all of the flavors and the brands that I did try. And now from that point to here, like I've tried so many tequilas. I've been to quite a few distilleries, and it just makes me continue wanting to dive more into more and more brands, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like me. I don't only drink my stuff, right? even though it's cheaper for me to do it. I I still go out and buy other stuff and mezcals, and it's it's for the pleasure. Like I literally enjoy the flavors of like everything. Like, oh, the different process, or like a new special edition, like we were talking about earlier. Special edition that they did a different kind of fermentation. Like, okay, let's give it a go. Like, I want to try that. It's
Yeah.
the excitement of what can that do to tequila that really makes you want to come back, or makes you want to try new things or experiment and stuff like that, which is also like super exciting.
With your brand, would you say that the dog is the protector of your brand?
I think I think the dog, the Xolo, is is the protector. I think he represents, what the brand is, and it's very like a very Mexican brand. Like even the name Xoloitzcuintle.
Mhm.
Like how do you say that? Why would you name a brand a name that Mexicans can't even say half the time? Like
Oh, I
it's
mean, even initially, I didn't say it right.
right. Like it's like, why would you do that? And it's because of what it means. It's not Spanish. It's Nahuatl. It's the dog that was in Mexico with our ancestors. Um, it's the dog that guides you when you're passing away, when you pass away, and you're in the 9 levels at Mictlan. Um, it's your guide. It's a spirit guide. This is
Well,
tequila's a
and
spirit.
so
It's,
putting it that way, and one of my favorite kids movies is Coco Loco,
yeah, Coco, yeah, and
and
Dante's a Xolo.
yeah, and so seeing the brand and then watching the movie, because I'd only seen the movie like a few months ago.
Did you
Um,
cry?
I will neither confirm nor deny. Um, but seeing that, and I was like, oh, that's the same. And then seeing the wings on the dog, I was like, oh, that's so awesome.
Mhm.
I started correlating the two. But if Cholo-its-quintle was a person
Okay,
in a room full of fake tequilas or fake brands, if you will,
okay.
how do you think it would act?
I think it would he or the person would act a lot like the dog does in real life. Uh, they're aloof. They stick to themselves, and it's they have their people, so they would be with their group, and they also don't. They're not overly aggressive, and they're also not like something that they're gonna back down from anything. So I think they're very middle of the ground and grounded. Um, I think that I mean, like my philosophy, and the hopefully like that portrays, and the dog would, the dog person that we're talking about would think the same, is that the world is super abundant. There's room for everybody, you know. But I think just kind of stick to your own. It's always important to know your limits, and know and keep to yourself. Even though you might be the smartest person in the room, it's never good to be the loudest person. That kind of mentality. So
Well,
I think that
usually
that would be the goal.
usually the loudest person is never the smartest person.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be. I would hope that's what my brand, or my dog person in the room would represent.
What message do you hope that people will hear loud and clear when they hold your bottle, when they sip it for the first time? What message do you want them to hear?
Honestly, I think it's just passion driven, just passion. There's a lot of love that goes into this, and it's not just my love. It's my master distiller that does this every day, and he does it with love. everybody that, works to bottle it and does it with love. It's so I think that I hope that people see that passion and love in the tequila. Um, you know, it being high proof, I go back and I have like connoisseurs that tell me like this is a tequila man's tequila. Like it's made by me and basically for me for other people. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm a tequila person. I'm a mezcal person. I love good juice. So I try to do that for myself and for other people. So that's just kind of I think that's
Eh, Talking about your whole process from start to now, what would you say the lowest point has been in your journey?
oh man. I think there's been a lot of like doors closed in my face, whether it be like stores or chains or distributors. Um, a lot of people are like, another tequila, or nothing's different, or you're never gonna make it. A lot of people have, and even liquor stores are like, dude, look at the shelves, they're packed. What are you doing? And or I got a lot of like negative feedback about the liter bottles.
How do you push
Well,
through that?
yeah, well, luckily, like I said, it's just the world is abundant. So if somebody doesn't want it, I'm sure there's gonna be another distributor that does want it. If liquor store doesn't want it, that's on them. They don't want to offer good tequila to their customers. Nothing I could do about it. Um, and as far as the liter bottles, I'm changing it. It is a slow process, but it's hopefully for the better of the brand and of the retailers being able to push it and sell it. So that and that's another thing about like all my lots are super small, right? Like my biggest lot has been the still strength,
Hmm.
and I it's 1,000 bottles, and that's my biggest
Okay.
lot ever. Uh, and so it's if somebody doesn't like a specific lot, I try to better every time. So it being so small is also like a benefit. Like, all right, don't like that one? Okay, I'll come back when my next lot, I'll come back at 300 bottles when I saw out of this one. And I'll, come back and knock on their door like, hey, this is my lot two or this is my lot three. And just kind of keep trying until I hit it.
And so talking about doors closing, how many doors closed before the first one opened?
I think that goes to like distilleries. Even when I was shopping around, I think I spent a month and a half in Mexico with my family. We were visiting 2 to 3 distilleries a day,
Oh wow.
talking about my project. Like, this is what I want to do. This is high proof, and they're like, all right, well, how, what are you starting with? How many cases are you gonna order? And I'm like, like a pallet. Oh no, we have a minimum of 20. Like, oh, all right, thanks. So look good. On to the next one. Like, and that was probably the biggest hurdle to like just that. Those were the first doors that were closing on me, to where like nobody wanted to do something so small. And it's I can understand it. It is time consuming for somebody that's going to be ordering 300 bottles. Like I don't, there's not very many distilleries that will want to do that. Uh, so those are like the first doors that were closing on me until I found my distillery. My the second doors that were really, hard to get into were the liquor stores, like I was saying, like I would show up and like, oh, this is the next best tequila, everybody's talking about it, and they're like, no, nobody's talking about it, kid, like, get out of here, what are you talking about? Like, never heard of it. How do you even say that? Dumb. Is that a kangaroo on the bottle? Why is there kangaroo? Is there kangaroos in Mexico? And like that kind of stuff. So liquor stores were probably, the second doors that were just really tough to nudge and get into. Restaurants are still, you know, closing their doors on me left and right. Restaurants and bars are super hard to get into. I don't know if it's, I don't know the secret, or it's or I have to start paying for menus or something. I don't. I don't know what the
Yeah.
deal is with those. But that's just something that I keep trying. But it's, I think I'm in, 60 stores here in Southern California, and then I'm in three restaurants. Like it's it's
Okay.
the difference is humongous.
Yeah.
The restaurants are still saying no. Liter bottles too ugly, too expensive, too this, too that. No, nobody wants to drink 46% tequila, all that stuff. Um, so that I mean those were the second doors that were closing on me, kind of thing. Um, but it's one of those things you just kind of keep pushing. Like you try the next place, try the next place, try the next place. And I always say in my mind, when I make it big and they call me like, "Hey, we want your tequila," I'm gonna be like,
I remember when you said
yeah,
no.
yeah, no, I don't think I would ever do that. But
In this process where you are having these doors closed, was there ever a lowest point that you ever considered of just walking away?
so I don't think I've ever considered walking away. There was a time where like I sold a like a whole pallet, and I was super excited, and then the distributor kind of never paid.
Ugh.
Uh, and when you're small and you send half of your product to a distributor, uh, you're like, okay, yeah, it kind of makes you like maybe maybe I'm not cut out for this, like I don't have that much room to play with it, or like it's not, um, yeah, but I don't think I mean that is like a negative or like a low point where I'm like it's frustrating, don't really know what to do. Um, but as far as like walking away, I don't think I've reached that point. I hope I never reach that point. But it's yeah, I don't think so.
What would you say the boldest move that you've made has been?
I think I think the boldest move is honestly releasing the entire lineup high proof. I think that's a statement in itself. Um, I think I think that's like something that stands out as far as like the tequila goes.
Moving forward years from now, even 50 years from now, when people talk about tequila and tequila brands, within 50 years from now, um, what do you want them to say about Cholo?
I would hope that they would talk about it um a lot like Fortaleza, um, where there's a lot of like history behind it, and like because it's what is he? He's fourth generation, correct? Uh,
Mhm.
so I just happen to be the first generation. In 50 years I'll probably be a grandfather, so the third generation will be there. That'll be kind of like, so it'll so I think that I think legacy, I think like family owned. It's always been like it's a great family. They've always done great stuff. I think that would be like the ultimate goal, to have like that lineage, that story, that family, like, oh yeah, it all started with, Ernesto the fourth, and then his kid did this and changed this and that. And then now like the third generation, and hopefully I get to see that, the third generation do something, like, yeah, third generation did this and did that, and did a different line or something, something. I
Mhm.
think that would be and is the ultimate goal of like.
And so, talking about family, how does your family play a role within your brand?
So I mean, so it's family is super involved with everything. My dad is my importer here in California. Um, my mom is the Arandas connection. So it's her history, her bloodline that drew me to the Highlands. Um, So it's kind of that. My sister does like tastings events for me sometimes, and she'll do some marketing. She'll do like little flyers for me, that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a all hands on deck, if we ever need anything kind of thing. My girlfriend did a tasting for me last weekend, because I double booked myself. So she's like, "Yeah, I got it, babe." Like I've heard you, tell the spiel 100 times. I think I could do it. So she busted it out. She did great. So I think it's a lot of like family input, a lot of family help, and I think that's also helps. I mean, it's tremendous, to be able to rely on people like that.
What is one story that you would like every drinker to remember about the brand after they finish the bottle?
One story. Okay, throw that one at me again.
You're like, I don't have enough tequila for this one.
Yeah, like let me throw some music and let me some mariachi in the background.
So what's one story that you want every drinker of your tequila to remember after finishing a bottle?
I think that I hope I to inspire people. I hope that people like see the brand and they say, you know what, like this guy Ernesto, he started this project, this tequila brand with, almost nothing. I mean, in comparison to other brands, it's minimal. Like it's almost nothing. Uh, and like he just, dove in and did it. And I hope that would inspire people, especially after they finish a bottle, they're gonna be feeling really good about themselves. So I hope they're like, ah, man, if he could do it, I could do it. Or if he could do it, I could do this. Or, like I think that would be really cool for people to be like inspired by a small project of mine that's, passion driven and love driven, and have them be inspired to do their own project and their own business and stuff like that. I think it's cool because a lot of people don't look at there's like certain industries where you look at something, you're like, that's not a small business, right? Like there's like you don't see a car company and be like, that's a small business. Right? Like, or somebody like that made a car, they're like, oh, how many cars have you made? I've made 2 cars. Like, oh, it's my small business. I make cars for a living. Like nobody, right? Nobody says that. Nobody does that, right? I think tequila is like one of those industries where it's either you have a lot of money and you're a big company and you're doing something, or you're not, or like you're a small distillery owner that produces for your family kind of thing. There's no like there's no like
And so,
small business where you're like,
yeah. So talking about inspiration and where you're headed within the next 5, 10, 50 years, what's next? New expressions, new vision, just refining the soul that's already in the glass.
so I think with the launch of the 700 ml bottles, um, I think that that's gonna definitely improve sales and allow me the space to be a little more experimental with things. Um, so the Valles is sold out, what you have there. So what's on the shelves is on the shelves. I only made 1,000 bottles, so there won't be another one of that. There's a little ceramic dog right here. So that's I'm gonna bottle some extra añejos cast strength in those ceramic dogs before the end of the year. Um, I'm already working on my next still strength because this was such a big hit and everybody loved it. It's something that can't be duplicated because I'm not gonna wait 2 years to bottle something again. Um, but my next still strength, I think it's gonna be super interesting. I won't talk about it, but my next still strength is gonna be pretty fantastic, and I don't think it's something that's being seen at the moment in the industry. So it's gonna be pretty unique, and I'm excited for it.
To kind of close everything out, where can people find you in social media?
So all my social media is Xolo_tequila. So it's Xolo_tequila. And then my website is Drink Cholo. So drink and then XOLO. That would be it. I again am the everything. So if you message me on Instagram, it's me. If you email me on the website, it's also me. And so it's always gonna be me that you're talking to. If anybody ever has any questions or hey, where do I find it? Or hey, I have a question about your product. I'm always pretty quick with answering and letting people know or just kind of helping people out with the brand.
Well, Ernesto, I appreciate your time and I thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you again. And everyone, have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.